Deciding to go to therapy is a huge act of trust. It really is. You're choosing to be vulnerable, you're hoping to find some healing, some understanding. It's supposed to be one of the safest spaces you can find.
But what happens when that trust gets completely shattered? We're going to dive into that really tough question, based on a collection of documented patient accounts. What happens when the very place you go for help is described as becoming toxic? Okay, let's get into it. So, where does a journey like this even begin? Well, according to these patient stories, it often starts not with a red flag, but with a really, really compelling promise. Something that's perfectly tailored to your deepest desires for connection, acceptance, or just feeling better about yourself.
Just look at this quote from one of the accounts. That's not a clinical diagnosis, is it? It's a powerful, personal lure. It feels like it's designed to just bypass all your skepticism and talk directly to that part of you that just wants to be wanted. And that really sets the stage for everything that follows.
And this is where you see this huge gap, this chasm. On one side, you've got the promise, a trusted guide, a place where you can finally connect. But then on the other side, you have the reality that patients allege they live through, a setup for humiliation, a cycle that made them dependent and a source of manipulation. Understanding this contrast is absolutely key to understanding their entire experience.
And what's really striking is that these horrible experiences, they weren't described as just random bad luck or one-off mistakes. No, the accounts point to a repeatable, almost methodical pattern of alleged manipulation and coercion, a system that seemed designed to break people down and create dependency. Some patients actually put a name to what they felt they were going through: attack therapy. Now, this is a real but highly controversial method. The idea is to be super confrontational, using intense criticism, even humiliation, to break down a person's defenses. But as we're about to see, the alleged result here was something else entirely.
In fact, when you look at all these patient accounts together, a kind of playbook emerges, a very clear 7-step cycle of control and coercion. This wasn't about healing. It was allegedly a systematic process. So let's just walk through how it's said to have worked, using examples straight from the people who lived it.
Okay, step 1, the setup and encouragement. This quote is pretty shocking. Yeah, you heard that right. A therapist allegedly gives a patient permission to cross a massive social and ethical line. This initial push to do something wrong, well, it becomes the foundation for the whole alleged system.
This next account is a powerful look at steps 3 and 4, shaming, and then manufacturing conflict. The patient describes being publicly humiliated, and then it's all turned around and blamed on them. But pay close attention to that last line. This humiliation bonded me to him. That's a textbook description of trauma bonding, where a person forms this intense, unhealthy attachment to someone causing them harm.
Then you get to step 5. This is where the therapist allegedly steps in as the protector, the sole authority. By saying he's like a father figure and he's the only one who can fix your deepest problems, he basically becomes the final word on your reality. And that just deepens the dependency even more.
And you can see where this is all heading, right? Step 6, reinforcement of power. At this point, the patient's own intuition is just shot. They start doubting themselves, questioning their own gut feelings, and even making excuses for the therapist's behavior. Their judgment is gone, and the therapist's control is pretty much absolute.
So when you put it all together, what do you have? The accounts describe this closed loop, a cycle that just keeps repeating. Boundaries get crossed, fights are started, and your own judgment gets worn down, all allegedly to keep you in a state of dependency, not to actually help you heal.
So what happens when someone finally gets out of a system like this? Well, the consequences described by former patients weren't just minor bumps in the road. We're talking about severe, long-lasting damage that affected pretty much every single part of their lives.
The scope of the alleged harm is just devastating. Patients talked about being cut off from friends and family, losing their jobs because they were trying to use the toxic advice they were given, and just suffering from deep, lasting psychological damage. And notice that phrase, the need to be deprogrammed. That's incredibly powerful language, and it tells you a lot.
And that language is no accident. This quote really drives home just how serious the experience was. The patient isn't just saying it was bad therapy, they're comparing it to escaping a cult. That just underscores the profound sense of manipulation and psychological control they felt they were under.
Look, this is all really heavy stuff, I know, but the whole point of digging into this is so that we can learn from it. So what are the takeaways here?
What are the warning signs pulled right from these accounts that can help empower anyone who's looking for therapy?
So these accounts basically give us a pretty clear checklist of red flags. Things like promises that sound way too good to be true, any kind of pressure to pull away from your family or friends, a therapist who encourages you to violate boundaries instead of building healthy ones, using humiliation as a weapon, and maybe the biggest one of all, demanding that you trust them more than your own gut feeling. These are all huge warning signs.
And that really brings us to the most important point. Good therapy should help you trust your own judgment, not give it away to someone else. If something feels off, if you consistently feel worse or confused or like you're being manipulated, that feeling is real. Your intuition is your absolute first line of defense.
So we're going to leave you with this question. And just thinking about it now, before you ever need to, is a really powerful form of self-protection. What is one personal, ethical line, one core boundary that you will never, ever let a professional cross, no matter who they are or what they promise?